Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of February the 17th till 23rd, 2025. Now, I must admit that I haven't really had time to prepare for this horoscope, so I don't even have any notes or anything. But this isn't necessarily a problem because I know that almost every one of my listeners knows a tiny bit of astrology, so we can do it together. So let us simply explore next week's energy and the sky, the chart together, and we'll see what we can conjure up in this uninvited partnership because, truth be told, I'm not a bad professional. I was just so busy and I really needed to invest my energy into helping here and there that I just simply couldn't prepare. But let this not be a problem. So let us begin. On the 17th, well, the sun is reaching 29 degrees of Aquarius, so energetic position. This is where something in the collective, because Aquarius is about the collective. It is about, anything that goes on the internet, anything, interhuman connections. So it's going to be really, really busy, and some rather heavy to look at or acknowledge things are going to be highlighted, besides all the new, the next, the futuristic Aquarian vibe. So, right off the bat, the Sun and Erratic Aquarius is going to bring this to the table. But Mercury is in the sign of Pisces already. So, Mercury is in a rather not so very comfortable position because it doesn't like being in the sign of Pisces. What does this mean? Well, all of us are going to be feeling the brain fog, the confusion. What did he say? What did she say? Or I know what the words are, but what is the hidden meaning behind the words, behind the communication, behind the gesture? Or Mercury in Pisces doesn't even need words. What am I feeling? What am I picking up on? Uh, this is a really good energy for intuition, for instinct, for navigating internally, as long as we are not obsessed by having to know, having clarity, having figured out instantly. Because, like always, this is the downside of Mercury in Pisces. It needs a bit of time, it needs a bit of contemplation, it needs a bit of, well, spirit as well, Pisces. Replace spirit with your own inner psychological configuration. Contemplation is where you're your own psychologist, basically. So Mercury in the sign of Pisces is really good for that, really good for poetry, music, artistic activities, etc., etc. And of course, it will go retrograde, but that's a different horoscope. So we're not even near that energy, thank goodness. So it's not this week. We're not concerned about it this week. Another energy is, of course, Venus, but we are a bit more concerned about Venus because she is still direct, but in shadow, in her shadow path. She will go retrograde back into Pisces. So Venus is already setting up the themes. First of all, she's in the sign of Aries for the moment, and she will begin her retrograde from the sign of Aries. This is the what we call in astrology the sluttery Venus, because yes, Venus here in this position is the head, really. And the head is very straightforward. The head is kind of animalistic, instinctual. However, I do not, neither me or anything can judge that, because that is one of the most honest Venuses. And honesty is going to be a big part of Venus retrograde. okay, we are not in danger quite yet, but it's getting near, getting closer and closer and closer. She's gonna go retrograde in the beginning of March. We still have some time, but in Aries, this is exactly her mission: honesty, the raw, brutal, unrefined, instinctual, sometimes animalistic honesty of the Venusian dimension. Love, pleasure, where, and Venus in Aries is not just the simplicity of the love, and because that can very well be Taurus, right? Aries, Venus in Aries is where is getting me. What is the pleasure spectrum of the future or my destination? Where I'm the battering ram, right? The ram has a target. So it's an initiatory energy, right? And also, this Venus will, like, how should I say, keep triggering. You know, like when you press a button multiple times, that's 0 degrees of Aries. That's the world stage. And from all of the 0 cardinals, it is Aries which is the most out there, the most, yep, this happened, or yes, this is happening. So again, Venusian diamond, do we love it? Do we accept it? We tolerate it? Do we want it? How are our collective needs and individual needs, collective needs, but within the collective, the individual? Very important. And this, within the collective, the individual, is also Aquarius theme. Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So Venus in the sign of Aries is really wanting us to get honest. The collective part, now that's not a mystery, because whatever we are going to be seeing and are seeing already play out in the world, that's the subject of discussion, of inner contemplation, basically. But for that, we need the honest take of the animal. How does the animal feel about XYZ? Because why is this important? Higher mind can feel excited even because the higher mind can see the large picture, the big perspective. The intuition can feel the end result of anything. So basically, it will always feel the good and the bad. You know what? So the intuition also has a certain subjectivity to it. However, the animal or the Aries part of us is the raw, brutal truth for the inner baby. You know, there's the inner child, but there's the inner baby. And why does the inner baby matter? Because the inner baby is very much pure instinct. When the inner baby cries, it knows why it's crying. When the inner baby is laughing, it knows why it's laughing, or anything in between. So, a raw honesty, how do we feel? What's the true value for this, that, XYZ, right? For us personally, whatever areas of our lives this is. First house, very much about the self and relation with the self. But this is the Aries type of configuration, because we must not forget it goes back into Pisces. It will, the raw, brutal honesty of this Venus in Aries will go back into Pisces. As I said, the intuition, which sees the good in the bad. But this raw, honest Venus will tell the, look, intuition, dish it out as it is, right? Don't sugarcoat it. And then we already immersed into the true dimension of Venus. Let me tell you the legend of Ishtar, because this is in certain ways relevant. Ishtar, the goddess of love, of course, the Sumerian Venus, basically. That's why the correlation. One depiction of her legend is that she was the queen of people. She ruled like a goddess. you can imagine, a lot. And she was this very powerful figure, the source of basically love, of pleasure, of things worth fighting for, hence even the goddess of war. Not in a Mars way, not the goddess of soldiers kind of way. Um, but there was this, and this is where the legends differ. I'm gonna tell you the version that I like the most. Her sister, the Queen of Hell, suffered an immense tragedy. Her husband died. And her grief, her mourning, her sorrow, irradiated out into all of creation, even the surface world. And people were drowning in a kind of depression and darkness. Who had to do so? Well, the queen. Ishtar had to go down and descend into hell. She had to strip naked all her power, all her jewelry, all her glory, all her beauty, all her everything. Her royalty was stripped off of her. She entered hell and she had to console her sister, but of course, this meant to take her place and become a sacrifice. Only in that way could the external universe intervene even in her sister's favor. She was decimated. Okay, she suffered a lot, but of course, then she was resurrected and she learned a very, very powerful lesson about compassion, about mercy, about grief, her sister's grief, and also about her consort who she had to leave in the surface world, who was not very considerate of what his wife has been through. Now, when she rises up, she doesn't just get back her old clothing and jewelry and symbols of power and godly status. She gets back all that in an updated, her own quantum evolution version. And when she comes back to, and this is also where the legends differ, I'm going to tell you the one I love the most. She forgives the husband because she realizes that, well, ultimately this was her mission, her goal, and betrayal doesn't hurt. She became much more than betrayal. She doesn't need to replace the husband because he was actually doing his job as in replacing her. She could not fault him at that, and that's what she ultimately needed the most from him, so he didn't fail in that. The fact that he got through the pain very quickly, his inner power, right? She chose to understand. That's how she rose above. This Venus is doing the same. She needs a raw, brutal truth, which may be for some people being dissected psycho-emotionally. I don't love it, him, she, something anymore. My love is different. Or we realize things about our love and value system. And then this goes back into Pisces. Then we contemplate it, and then it returns back into Aries, because that's when we can really head out. Because we have the personalized value. How should I even say, the value meter. We fixed our value GPS. So our head, Aries, is gonna steer us to what we really love or find valuable. Again, sovereignty, Aries, and the fact that Pluto in the sign of Aquarius is, well, even in the present moment, sextiling this Venus. So again, sovereignty, the collective needs the individual to feel sovereign and powerful. An interconnectedness. Let's move on, because we're going to be getting this Venus a lot this week and the weeks that follow. We also have still the North Node conjunct Neptune, a period when everything is a mirror, a period when we really, really are invited to personalize our connection with the divine. Let me give you like a brute example. This is where let's not seek true faith and what the divine's relationship is with me personally in ancient wisdom or with someone else's life. An example, let me put down the phone, switch off the internet. If I can get to a place where I'm just in sacred solitude, and let me converse, let me have the conversation with the source itself. Let me see what our relationship is about, because many times we have no, and this is where not even the wisest people know. They know the truth of others, but they don't know their own truth, because it's a relationship. You need to spend time with the divine to understand. And many times, for example, me, I have natally Neptune in the 10th house. The illusion that my work is so important to me. No, it's not. No, it's really not. And I still cannot switch off the illusion. But slowly and surely over this lifetime, the more I connect to the divine, I understand that now it's not about work at all, even though a person of my profile would seem that way. Like most people of my profile, it's very much about the work usually. For me personally, I'm the exception, and I don't feel it that way. This is when not feeling the distinctiveness of the self is a bad thing, because you don't know that it's not really meant for you, because you judge your situation from the norm. And this is very important, not just for me personally, but for everyone, because this is where we see Neptune conjunct the North Node, what the divine really intends for us. But the divine intent is never aggressive. It's always just a hint. Take it if you wish, but please, by all means, priority is your own road, your own consideration, your own wisdom, basically, your own GPS. But the hint is always there. Many times we confuse it for cowardice, weakness, ego, etc., what society projects on us and gaslights us with. But really, many times the divine is more like a really loving grandpa who knows that we're just small children pretending to do this and that, and really doesn't want us to get hurt. But yeah, there's no telling us that. However, this week especially it is, because it's very much about what the divine, what that really loving and compassionate and gentle grandfather intends for us. Or, oh, sorry, grandparent, sorry, grandparent. Because, yeah, grandparent, not ma or dad, just grandparent is intending for us, sorry. I almost committed the crime there. Another energy that is with us and very significantly is still the Mars retrograde, which we cannot ignore. Now, this Mars retrograde is a bit special and uncomfortable, extra uncomfortable, but not for the reasons it started with. The reasons it started with was our own powerlessness and what it is that we needed to break out from our own character. To break out from, let me give you an example. When it was in the sign of Leo, because that's where it began its end of December, something like that. That's when it began its retrograde. The vanity of our own heart, wisdom of the heart and all of that. But sometimes the heart is also the source of the not so nice things. Let me give you an example. One of the most negative energies in astrology, but the type of negative when something is there, you just know that it's not going to be smiley in the end. And it's not it's nothing. It's not an energy. It is just a really notorious degree. 22 or 20. I'm so sorry. As I said, I'm a bit overworked at the. Okay, I'm gonna check it. Sorry, sorry, sorry. But I cannot lie, so I have to check my notes here. So Leo. 22 degree. Yeah, so it's 22 degree of Leo. It's called Own's Worst Enemy. So Leo is also the host of, as I said, the self's worst enemy, the black heart, so to speak, the cold or rock heart, stuff like that heart. That's also Leo, right? So Mars retrograde, when it started out in Leo, really highlighted all of that, either within us or who in our lives really doesn't have the heart that we have. So it's time to sometimes break a connection because the heart is not the same. Then in Cancer, we have the family, things we inherited from the family, like generational trauma and the family stuff. But by now, we got to the fact that we broke out of this, right? The jealousy, the possessiveness, the me, the passive aggressive victim, the silent, you know what I mean. We broke out of character. Now the problem is that we cannot step into the new character because Mars is still forcing us to deal with the old. As much as we would like to see the old just poof away, especially this is more like a psychological energy. But the old is not poofing away until we really clean it out. Psychologically, emotionally, and Mars to do. Say what you need to say, write what you need to write, do the gesture you need to gesture, make it happen. Or if you understood why something that you do, Mars, is harmful, you stop doing that for real. So until Mars starts moving again in the opposite direction, uh we are tested and we are in this limbo-ish type of energy. However, the good news, it's still trining Saturn, so we can do it, we should do it. Let's be serious about this because on the long term, this is very, very helpful. Jupiter direct in Gemini is still not moving all that much, but Jupiter, after it will pick up speed, it will whiz through Gemini very, very quickly. Don't you worry. But Jupiter is still very, very slow, let's say, because it wants us to really have the pearls of wisdom that we harvested all through last autumn and winter on into this year, into the present, basically. It really wants us to embrace those lessons, our faith, what we believe, what we know about ourselves, and what we know about the other um, Gemini sibling energy. And it will want us to start using it in the wisest ways possible. So basically, this is the overtone energy of the week. So on the 18th, we see the energetic sun in the sign of Aquarius, preparing to move into the sign of Pisces. And with this, of course, begins Pisces season. Oh boy, Pisces is really a powerhouse of energy, of karma, of big, like Pisces is going to host some eclipses. It will host one eclipse in March, but a very powerful one. A big, like a big karmic wrap-up moment, basically. Because Pisces is also the collective unconscious. We know Pisces energy individually. When our soul calls us to do, or to get honest with ourselves, or forgiveness, or something that our soul pulls us through, or, artists. Collectively, however, nations, the serious, it's international. Nations, land, and the spirits of the lands and people collectively. Big wrap-ups, big, like big. Pisces is also water, flooding. But I'm gonna be holding a glass because, the astrologer, my favorite astrologer, Nadia Shaw, invited me to hold a class in her university. And I'm going to be speaking about the dwarf planets. And there's a dwarf planet which is swimming in the sign of Pisces, but that dwarf planet is a water deity, water and water. And that deity is a flood god. I do believe that it's pronounced Gong-kun or something like that. It's written Gong Gong. But I'm not really smiling in a very confident way because this kind of means flooding. Not just because of Gong-kun, but there's way too much in Pisces to splash the water out. Both karmically, both emotionally, both, well, religiously, because we cannot ignore the religious factor of Pisces. Pisces is when religion gets a bit dark as well, right? Because the other religion sign is Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius may be a bit fanatic and extreme and all that, but at least it's out there. It's what you see is what you get. Pisces is never what you see is what you get. So you know what I mean. But it's also flooding, flood, sea. Saturn is the earth, but Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. So that also means the sea floor, because that's also earth, right? Calamity, tsunami, something. And also Pisces is our immune system. It is our blood, especially the vitality in our blood. It is our hormones. It is the water within us. Okay, every water sign is the water within us. But Pisces is the most related to, like the immune system. So when Pisces goes a bit so and so, we feel it in the Piscean way, when something's wrong with you, but it's not like, for example, my liver hurts. I know that it's my liver. I know that it hurts. That part is not an enigma. With Pisces type of energy disruption is where I feel like I'm a bit high or low or depressed, but I have absolutely no problem. I know my emotion. I really have no problem but then why am I depressed? You get to the doctor, hormone tests, and of course something is a bit off. That's the Pisces. Or many ladies, when they enter menopause stage, when their hormones start brewing up, well, immediately there's either something transitory in the 12th house, or 6th house also matters, because Pisces Virgo axis, medical axis. So of course Pisces will affect Virgo. The gut, the biome. You know, the microorganisms in the gut, digestive tract. Basically, our earthly self can be considered Virgo in its integrity, right? Our physical body, our health. So yes. Oh, and an eclipse is eclipse, right? So that means discharge. That means an elimination. That means a moment of culmination. For example, a big moment of detox, but it can also mean something in the medical system. So, South Node, yeah, I said it correctly, in the sign of Virgo. Well, on one hand, okay, the illnesses and viruses, because Virgo rules the microorganisms, and we see this, especially here in Europe, this flu epidemic that is really, really bad. But Virgo has a different side to it. Healthcare professionals, and we also see this. They're burning out. They're mistrusting the system. There's a HR crisis in the healthcare industry. The human element is revolting. That will continue, and at the end, in the eclipse season, so March and then September, this will right? This will play out one way or another. Uh, so yeah, this Pisces energy is really, and Saturn, well, on one hand, karma. On the other hand, uh, the solids within us. So calcium levels, this mineral, that mineral in our blood. But then there is structures, buildings flooded away or corroded, or then Pisces is archaeology, fossil fuel, the past, archaeologically and historically speaking, but the mystery itself, right? That part. So there's gonna be a lot of everything, really. Mercury in the sign of Pisces, well, this is a big topic right now anyway. So yeah, it is really, really ongoing. So that's, long story short, this Pisces season is not gonna be the typical Pisces season. Sun will conjunct Mercury, Saturn, and the node, and then Neptune. So there, if I'm not mistaken, Venus retrograde. Well, there's a lot happening in Pisces. This is ultra karmic and ultra confusing. This is where we really need to have a strong relationship with our own spirit, our own connection to the divine, to get through this in the sanest way possible, because this is meant to be highly confusing. But there's a hidden catch. The truth is not confusing at all, but your inner truth. Everything in the world might seem confusing to you except a few things. Those few things are really you. The rest may be just your part in the collective. If the collective is meant to be confused, you have to be confused as well. Like, you know what I mean? The rest is sharing. Sometimes sharing is caring, other times sharing is not so caring, but sharing. But those things that are crystal clear to you, especially the Venusian type, and not just, also the Saturnian type. What is the Saturnian type? I know 1,000,000,000% this will not work for me. I cannot sacrifice any more. I don't want this to be part of my life any longer. That's Saturn. But the Venusian, of course, how do I feel? My dreams, my aspirations. So this is a very powerful period. And then let's move on. On the 19th, we see that the sun is already comfortably in Pisces. Mercury is advancing in the sign of Pisces, starting to form a square with Jupiter, very, very important. Yeah, confusing, yes. News, communication, words, whatever is gonna overflood us and fry out our processors. However, within that, there will be a lot of truth. There will be a lot of authenticity of what your true faith, your true spirit, your true feelings, the true you is. So work with this energy, as confusing as it might get. And of course, the downside, do not believe any fake promises. Phishing, scams, the fake phone calls, you know, all of that. So there is going to be a lot of deception, identity theft, because the sun will take Mercury's place too at one moment. So all the bad, all the low-key stuff on the internet, all the criminal stuff, right? So be very, but also in love. Do not believe the big words and promises. Let the future, right, will tell how truthful they were. But in other ways, this energy is so creative, so constructive. Poetry, music, arts, artists, psychology, psychoanalysis, channeling, all of it's really, really wonderful. As confusing as it is gonna get. And we also have a sextile between Venus and Jupiter that is gonna be getting exact stronger all through the week. Venus is the lower benefic, Jupiter the higher benefic. Neither of these planets are very comfortable in the signs they are in, but the sex that they still help each other. This is still a lucky energy. The brave, the bold, speaking out, really being sure of your values, daring to ask questions, daring to want people to prove their whatever. But remember, Venus retrograde, this is just setting the themes for Venus retrograde. So don't sign the contract yet. This is not the actual beginning or this is just the work in progress. The process, as they say. So until something truly realistic, authentic, may it be contractually, job-wise, love-wise, or whatever area of life this falls into, that's somewhere in April, May. This is just sorting it out, getting there. But getting there, of course, means the initiation, what we're going to have to investigate during this Venus retrograde season. So, yep. Moving on. Well, the energy is gonna basically stay the same most of the week because it's not all that aspect heavy week. Okay, we have the Mercury square Jupiter, but that's a shorter term aspect, and it's not something. Okay, in the present moment, everything that adds to lies, deception, fake truth, false truth, bad news, psychological manipulation, psychological warfare is bad. However, we had a lot of training when Jupiter and Saturn squared one another in Gemini Pisces. So I do believe that was somewhere in the end of autumn. But you know, never trust these dates that I personally say, because I'm not very good with dates. Without my notes, my brain will just forget. Even if it's astrology, it will want to delete the extra information. So sorry. And as we head towards the end of the week, we can see that the moon is getting into position to hold the new moon in Pisces. But of course, that's the much later on, the week after. And Jupiter hasn't moved all that much yet. Fortunately, Mars is coming to a standstill, which means preparing to stop and go direct, but that also is later on, not yet. So I do believe this is basically this week's horoscope, because it is just a transition period when the energies are growing and growing and growing, and both the Mercury and Venus retrogrades, their themes in our lives, are setting themselves up, while the Mars retrograde theme in our lives is getting to the point where, yep, we are going to be taking action for real this time. So this is, I do believe, the best way to understand and interpret this energy. And also, as Saturn starts picking up speed and progressing into Pisces, it's holding a sextile with Uranus, which is also a really good energy, making it real, embodying our faith, our morals, our principles, our whatever. Embodiment, the dream becomes reality. The earth accepts the seed of intention and grows it. Uranus in Taurus is funny because Taurus is Gaia, Uranus is the sky. And Gaia was raped by Uranus. It is a rape story, really. However, this is so multidimensional because the creation of life sometimes is worth any sacrifice. But why is this important? Both Uranus and Saturn are wrapping up their jobs in the signs they are transiting. Saturn will move into Aries, okay, in 2026 permanently, and even Uranus himself in 2026 permanently into Gemini, but this is a big wrap-up energy. So that's why the relation between the sky and the earth, let me say it technically for those who know astrology: sky, midheaven, earth, I see. Don't look at your own specific chart in this case, just understand the symbolism. Sky is our highest aspirations and many times the realm of impossible. The earth is what we have as resources and our maximum potential that we need to work to use, the gardener, right? The two need to meet somewhere in order life to become happy and inspired. In a nutshell, this is what is going to be taking place. So what is the sky? What is the earth for us? And how can we sanctify our wounding? What is our wounding? Uranus in Taurus, slavery. It doesn't matter if it's masked. If you determine someone psychologically to not feel happy without a job, that's slavery. No human being is born wanting to have a job. Job should not be what it is today. Job should be everyone's creativity, everyone's own unique heart-based creativity. Not everyone needs to become, I don't know, a cook or whatever. There are adventurers are needed, dreamers are needed. Everyone is needed. Everything, being is just the job. So this is what Uranus and Taurus together, their rough dance, by rough dance, seismic activities. When Uranus was in the earlier degrees of Taurus, it shook Croatia to its core. Then it shook Turkey to its core. It even shook my country, but only a tiny little bit. And of course, in this Uranus transit in Taurus, because my country was hit by a massive earthquake in 1970 something, if I'm not mistaken, and it destroyed our capital. But yeah, that's Uranus in the sign of Taurus. That's it. That is what it is. But this also happens psycho-emotionally. Value, what we endure for value, what we endure for freedom. The two many times are on opposite sides. So this energy is really making us think. So I think I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you everyone for listening. And until next time, bye for now.